Welcome back, everyone. Well, as you know, I comment on this a lot. I'm always amazed by the number of people doing all kinds of interesting projects throughout the North Country, and boy, do we have one for you today. It was about 6 months ago. Andrew here said to me, a couple of guys are in Whitehall, and they made a documentary about the Bigfoot sightings in Whitehall. And they're kind of legendary if you live in the area. And lo and behold, we found out that two guys from Ohio were actually here making a documentary about this sighting. So joining me today are the director and the producer of this documentary. We got Seth Breedlove and we've got Brandon Dalo. I said it right, good. Because it's spelled what, D-A-L-O or something? Okay, yeah. So Dalo. So welcome, guys. Welcome from the big state of Ohio.
Oh, massive, huge.
To the big state of New York, I guess, right? A lot of similarities, I'm sure.
Oh, there are, actually.
I bet. Now, you've got a company called Small Town Monsters, so you have a specialty in wanting to go around the country chasing down folklore and chasing down sightings of these unusual sort of X-File kinds of things, if you ask me.
Yeah.
So what interested you, Seth, in this one?
In this one, I love the idea of this story that involves all these law enforcement officers seeing this unknown creature, because typically when you think of a Bigfoot sighting, it draws to mind like teenagers drunk in the woods or like a hunter somewhere having an encounter with some sort of creepy glowing-eyed creature. And this story has official members of the society, you know, in terms of law enforcement actually seeing one of these creatures, and these guys are trained in the art of observation. So obviously their testimony is going to be a little bit higher than some other people. So that really drew me in. And then right when we were kind of starting to move on this project, one of our key witnesses, Paul Gosselin, actually passed away. So that kind of brought me around to thinking we really need to get this documented. We need to make a film about this before we lose some of these other witnesses and some of the key pieces of information get lost to time.
You know, they'll always tell you when you come across witnesses, and you're right, it could be a bunch of kids in a car or something. You know, there's all these takeoffs on the credibility of whether something really happened or not. And then all of a sudden you talk to somebody and it almost bone-chilling, because you realize that this person truly believes what they're saying to you. And then the credibility ratchets up, of course, of their officials. Yeah. Because they are, as you said, they're either trained in it, or, you know, you can count on the fact that they're focused on what they're observing. All right, with that said, and yeah, I suppose you do the research, right? Don't you, Brent?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Seth does a lot of the research before we get into it. But yeah, he usually goes through a witness list, people who have said that they've seen the creature, and does all the research and gets a hold of them and tries to see who we can talk to and do the interviews with them.
It's a back and forth kind of thing, though, because like when we get, initially it's me on my own, but once we get into editing on the movie, it becomes, Brandon, especially on Beast of Whitehall, was extremely involved with how these characters, who was going to be a main character, who needed to play a larger role in the story, and we go back and forth constantly on why we think things should be the way they are in the film. And as the guy, like on Beast of Whitehall, I'm sitting there editing, and then Brandon would watch footage and be like, we need a larger focus on this person or this person. And sometimes it didn't go exactly smooth. Like, I didn't always agree with him, but typically, if I sat down and thought about what he'd said, I'd find that his input was probably 10 times as valuable as what I was trying to hold on to from my own point of view.
Now, this story revolves around an incident in 1976, right? And over the course of a week, so this wasn't just one time, you know, it was a foggy night and, you know, black bear wandered down out of the Adirondacks. Right. That there was some very specific, there was a correlation between what witnesses saw over the period, I think you were telling me, of a week, right? Yeah. Now, let's talk a bit about where it happened. Kind of an open field near a stream, right?
Yeah, there's Abear Road. The incident is called the Abear Incident. In fact, the tagline for the movie is the Abear Incident. Right. So there's this field, and Abear Road runs right through it, and nearby is the Poultney River, which runs through the state of Vermont and New York, and is obviously a major river and water source. So it's surrounded by thick forest. You can see that in the film. We threw some drone up and caught some of that on camera, and obviously from the maps and aerial maps and all that kind of thing, you can look it up for yourself. I mean, if you're going to see an undiscovered animal or some sort of large predatory animal, it's probably going to be in that location.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Now, what did witnesses say to you about this?
Well, as far as like the witness descriptions, what we most commonly heard described was these glowing red eyes. And when it comes to these Bigfoot sighting reports, you don't always hear about the glowing red eyes, but it comes up enough to make you think there might be something to it, as odd as it seems, especially as a natural animal. But we did find out from Paul Bartholomew that there's a history there, and going back even to the Native Americans in that region, of creatures that have eyes that glow like timbers or coals, something like that. He told us in the mountains. So it's obviously a piece of information about the creature that's gone back forever. But 7 to 8 foot tall. Obviously covered in shaggy hair, and it just kind of depends on who's seeing it and when.
Right. Now, it started off, and we're going to tell you when you can see this film, and we're going to be running it all next month, frequently here on Look TV, so you get plenty of opportunities to see it. It started off with a couple of kids, right? They saw it, scared the you-know-what out of them, came into town, grabbed the sheriff, took the sheriff out, and the sheriff, I think, saw it himself, right? And then over the course of a week. Now, before we went on air, you were telling me that they think that it was hanging around. What's the theory about why it was hanging around for a week?
I mean, we can only speculate, but Seth and I kind of think, we've theorized that maybe it had a juvenile with it, a kid, in the area, and it was, because what other reason would it have for sticking around in that one spot for a week? Because people saw it the first night, second night, later that week, someone shot at it. So yeah, the only thing that we could really think about would be that it had a juvenile with it somewhere in the vicinity, and it was trying to keep people out of that area, and people just kept kind of interfering.
Yeah, I bet. Now, there was also talk that some carcasses of deer were left around, so it was obviously feeding on something.
Yeah, if that's what killed it.
Yes.
There was a deer found right up at the top of the field. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, right in the same corner general area where the law officers actually saw the creature exit the field. So they saw this thing walk up to a fence line, disappear into the trees, and later a deer was found in there.
So were you surprised by this?
The deer?
Everything.
Yeah, no, this story is endlessly surprising to me. We always find these stories fascinating, but the amount of people that come forward wanting to talk about it and tell their own sightings always surprises me. I had people calling me on the phone when I was here back in July filming, and they didn't want to come on camera, but they wanted to tell me about their sighting. I had 4 different people call to talk to me about their Bigfoot sighting in the general vicinity of Whitehall. And the number that I got from Bill Brand, as far as like how many people in the area, how many sightings there have been around Whitehall, is 240, I believe, is what he told me.
Unbelievable. Well, partially because of the river, partially because of the isolation and the density of the Adirondacks in that area. Anybody who travels through there, lives there, will know exactly what we're talking about. The situation and the setting and the environment is really perfect for, if this is going to happen, it's going to happen in an area like that, right?
Yeah.
So now, you've been around the country. You're doing something in Arkansas, didn't you tell me that? So there are a few of these around the country that you're chasing, right?
I think every town has a monster. In the town I grew up in, we had a monster called Minnie, and she lived in a railroad tunnel. But the weird thing about it is every town has a monster. So many of these monsters are upright walking, hair-covered, ape-like beings. The amount of monsters, local monsters, who are flying around or swimming is not anywhere near the same as the Bigfoot-like creatures, which is unusual. I mean, if you want to, I've always thought that is a case for the existence of the creature.
So we're going to have to start to call you Mulder. I'm telling you, this is going to be a problem.
Sure.
Yeah, right. The Beast of Whitehall. The premiere is tomorrow, Saturday, in Whitehall, at, where is it? Where?
The Whitehall Athletic Club.
Okay, the Whitehall Athletic Club. It's 40 minutes in length. You'll be able to see it here on Look TV. But the reason to go to the premiere, of course, is that you get to meet them. There's a Q&A period,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
A lot of the people who are in the film will be there as well.
Yeah, our three main kind of characters in the film will be there.
Right.
So
this is fascinating. You know, it's unusual to start with, and it's really unusual to have you in our area. I really want to thank you for coming in and, you know, exploring this and chasing it down and taking care of the witnesses. You know, we're in media. It's not easy to get people to talk to you, to cooperate, put it together, edit it, and make a cohesive story.
Yeah.
Not to mention the soundtrack, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, but thank you, though.
Yo, you're welcome. Again, in Whitehall tomorrow, Saturday, 3 p.m. and 5 p.m., right?
4 p.m. and 5 p.m. encore showing. 3 p.m. is Paul Bartholomew will be talking about Bigfoot in New York. The Q&A takes place at 6.
It does, okay, right. I got news for you. This sounds like a great thing to do. And then we'll see. I suppose you're going to enter this in awards and...
Yeah, it's been entered into festivals. We played at 6 festivals so far. We opened the Canton Film Festival in Ohio on April 21st.
Great. Best of luck to you guys, and great. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
And your trip here to come in and talk to us.
Thanks.
See this interview again? You can head to our website, looktvonline.com.